Hey, welcome to the Creative One. My name is Peter Blastosibego, and thank you very much for joining me. The best way to describe what we do here is that you are the Creative One, and what we do is we bring in guests to share thoughts, share their insights and experiences in what the topic is. And the topic today is the anatomy of high impact video production in Africa. We've got two grand pieces that we're going to be dissecting, myself and the guest. And today's guest is all the way from Ghana. He's actually a friend of the Creative One, so it's not the first time that he's on here. I think the last time he was here with us in 2022, but I'm sure he will correct me if I'm wrong there. It's Nana Asihene. Nana,
Yes, Peter. How are you?
let me bring you in. Good on you, man.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. How's South Africa?
Are we good? We're good. We're still in summer this side. I'm sure you still are as well.
Um, I
I got
mean,
that right.
the weather here is just is either hot or cold. I mean, not as cold as South Africa. So for us, it's not all year. So yeah,
Fantastic. And once again,
yeah,
thank you for accepting the invite and
definitely.
coming back on the Creative One. So we've got something exciting. We've got two clips that have been
Yeah,
sent to yourself, and you've looked at it. And
yeah,
so we're going to unpack those two, major African brand productions,
yeah,
right? And we're going to start with the Guinness one. You've
yeah.
looked at it, and what was your first thought about the Guinness one?
For me, I think it's one of the commercials that when it popped up on our screens, well, across Africa, it was different. I mean, considering the fact that Guinness had previously done campaigns that um, were African, but didn't delve deep into the characteristic of being African or proclaiming something that was purely African. So when this ad came out, it was
Yeah,
something that for me personally excited me. And I think that the fact that it was directed by an African, it captured the essence of like, the African vibrancy, African
yeah.
color, and who we are naturally just opposing it against the brand. I think that was a very beautiful thing.
Fantastic. And it was in your territory, which is Ghana,
Yeah,
including Kenya, Nigeria, and I
yeah,
think Uganda as well. Beautiful piece. And just before we get into playing any of those, just a disclaimer is that this is for educational purposes and to analyze production value in as far as what we're going to be looking at. So that's what we're going to be doing. And that's the reason we can only play a few seconds of the clips. So they are in the
Mhm.
description. So go to the link in the description, as we will have those for you to check out the full piece. And the video quality might not be great for this purpose, but I'm sure you'll get the message in terms of what we're trying to do. So now I'm going to play something from just a small piece, as I said. And let's take
Definitely.
a look at what they've done here. I hope I pull up the right one. Here we go. It is just a few seconds of it. Here we go. So that's the production, or well, a piece of that production. And I'm
Yeah,
sure you saw from the little that I played, it went through different. I think it's about three locations,
yeah.
and that first piece just shows the vibrancy, as I said, in terms of color. What about color did uh, struck you the most from what you saw? Color
Okay, so
usage.
I think we're used to Guinness commercials being dark, right? And
Mhm.
for me, the big idea of black shines brightest is what made it for me. The fact that within the blackness of who Africans are, there's so much color. So Africa isn't just one color, it's black. And even in color theory, when you study color theory, it says that black has all the colors mixed together. And I think the ad even says that. So all the color in the ad is just sort of breaking apart what it means to be black. The
Yeah.
texture, the color,
Mhm.
and even the movements, because Africans move. Africans are rhythmic. It's in our poetry. It's in our cooking. It's in everything. We are very rhythmic. So for me,
Yeah.
I think even just a few seconds you showed captures the brightness, the color, the
Yep.
texture, the movement of what Africa is. Plus, in that very short while, we go through three locations. That
Yep.
I would say that from an advertising point of view, the
Yeah.
client knows that these are their demographics and they've reached out to, they've spoken to this person, spoken to that demographic, and spoken to that demographic. We see consumption, we see culture, and then we see just color for color's sake that represents what
Uh,
Africa is. So those 15 seconds, for
yeah.
me, that is what it does.
So we spoke about the different locations that that piece touches on. In fact,
Yeah,
the entire 30 seconds goes through, I think, about 4 or 5 locations.
yeah,
And this transition here, I don't know if you can see it on the
yeah.
screen. I just grabbed a screen grab of one of the transitions, and you can see on the detail, and I don't know if you can pick that up there, that already in the trumpet, in the black section, it's already
The next scene.
transitioning. Yeah, the
Yes.
next scene. So I
Yeah.
think just talk us through uh, whether it's post or production, what goes into something like this, because there's a lot of detail in as far as that is concerned.
This. Okay. So the thing about production is we usually start from the story, or some people will say the shot list or the storyboard. And usually, as a director, personally, when I'm storyboarding, it's supposed to give me an idea of how every single frame connects
Mhm.
with the other frame.
Yeah.
So I guess for this, what they did was prior to this shot, we've
Mhm.
been thrown into the cacophony of horse riders and the
Mhm.
brass band and the masquerade and all of that. And the director wanted another way, a segue into the other space. Now,
Mhm.
one of the key things in this shot is the
Mhm.
trombone. I think that's a trombone, and it has like a
Yes,
circular shape in between.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, usually a trombone doesn't have another scene within it. So I'm sure it was planned such that the camera then moves into the trombone and then it is tied into the next scene. The next scene is also shot as if you are entering that scene. And then in
Yeah.
post production, there's some amount of compositing done, shape matching done,
Yeah.
so that you can tell that the next scene is in the trombone. For me, the detail
Yeah.
about this I love is the fact that you can see the reflection
Yeah.
of the shot we are in
Uh-huh.
around the trombone, even before you enter the other scene. And the fact that it shows up before
Yeah.
makes the whole transition seamless. And for the human eye, it only takes some time to pause and watch before you can see these things. But the thing
Mhm.
about film is for you to feel it first,
Yeah.
experience it before you get to the point where you get to break it down. So I think this transition, and this is replicated several times through the film. So this idea is sort of like the big idea that pulls together all the scenes, and I think it was done beautifully.
Was done beautifully, and I think they were very deliberate in terms of the transition elements that they
Yeah.
used, because they go through audiovisual mediums to
Yes.
transition. Because I think the other two transitions that precede this one go into a radio uh, gadget and
Yeah.
the television screen. In fact, this very transition that we looked at goes into a section where there's a lady that's sitting around a room that is her background has screens. So they were very
Yeah.
deliberate in using, visual medium and audiovisual
Exactly. Yeah.
medium. And another one that I've picked that I'd like us to take a look at is right in the beginning. I think it's within the first piece of the few seconds that I played.
Yeah.
It's this particular one. It's a point of view of a very fast moving shot.
Yeah.
How do you achieve this?
Um, there's several ways of achieving this. Maybe I have watched too much of the behind the scenes of this ad, so I know how this was done.
Ah, okay,
Um,
that's good.
but one way of achieving this, obviously, is because it's a point of view, the camera has to be in that position. And then from a production point of view, the first thing you ask yourself is how do you secure that camera and
Yeah.
how do you get quality, the same
Mhm.
quality? Because if this was shot on, say, an Arri Alexa, it will be very difficult for you to mount the Arri Alexa on the person riding the horse so you can get that point of view. So I'm sure they use a smaller camera. I think they use the GoPro. I think so. But the key thing is determining where the camera should be placed so that you get that point of view that is immersive. The idea is to immerse your audience in the scene, because when you see someone riding a horse and it's passing by, it's usually from our left to our right. That's how we
Yeah.
perceive it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
putting us in on the horse with the person is what made this shot nice. I think they use the GoPro, and the key thing too is to be able to match the quality and the color of that shot to the quality and the color of the other cameras that were used. And obviously the movement and the transition to this, so it is seamless. I mean, we've
Yeah.
paused this so we can tell all of these things, but when you're seeing it for a second,
Yeah.
it just hits you like a flood, and that's how you're meant to experience it.
And that's not the kind of shot that would take one take, would it?
No, no, I'm sure it will take several takes.
Yeah.
It would also take maybe they probably try several angles, maybe
Yeah.
higher up the person's chest, lower, and then maybe even over his head, so they can see the several options that they can get as they frame the shot. But that's the beauty about production. A lot of work goes into getting the shot, but then the audience
Yeah.
experience it, and it's like half a second, 1 second. Yeah.
It is, yeah. And before we get into the next one, from a producer's standpoint, where would the real work go into when starting a production like this?
I think obviously budgeting, but budgets are based on a breakdown. For me,
Yeah.
that's the key thing about every project. If you fail, if you break down and you leave out something and you don't budget for it,
Yeah.
then it comes back to haunt you, and essentially it tends to reduce quality, because if you need two of something and you budgeted for only one, and obviously it means that it's going to affect the storyline. So I think the breakdown is a key thing. And usually the breakdown is done from the director's treatment. And I think that
Uh-huh.
link is very important. When the
Yes.
director pours out their vision on paper or
Mhm.
into a document, is the producer's responsibility to sit with the director, be able to understand every shot, be able to determine what will go into every single shot, the logistics for it. What are the things that could go wrong? So there's contingency in that. What are the things that you need for every single scene? Do we need
Mhm.
to have two options of it? Is one option okay? Um, Example, this horse shot. Is this something that we can do several times? Because maybe horses are not human beings. They'll probably decide, okay, we're not galloping again. We're going to go somewhere else. So these are
Yeah.
all things that you take into consideration when planning all of these. So it's like you're building a universe, and the producer's job is to not only look at the visuals of the universe, but the physics of the universe and the dependencies in terms of finances, dependencies in terms of scheduling, dependencies in terms of the story itself. How do all these things come together to help the director tell their story? So it has a lot of moving parts, and
Yeah.
that's why usually projects like this will have maybe one lead producer and maybe
Mhm.
assistant producers, and then they will work with the heads of departments who are also well versed in what they're doing in relation to the work with the director, so that they can do all of these things. I think the most important part of a project like this is
Yeah.
the pre-production, because you can't hire all these horses and all these people, go on set, and you don't know exactly what you're going to do. So pre-production is key. I'd rather be in pre-production for 2 months and shoot for one day
Yeah.
than do 2 weeks and shoot for 3 days. Pre-production is always key.
That's the Guinness Black Shines Brightest. I think we're moving from one vibrant one to really one that is calm, and in terms of pace, it's laid back, and quite a huge contrast in my view from what we've just seen.
Yeah.
It's the MTN Pan African Brand campaign. I think this one was put together really well, and it just really shows how MTN has just really moved from uh, it being just purely a telecoms brand into storytelling, right?
Yeah.
What struck you the most before I play a selected clip from this one?
So when I watched it, especially because I watched the first one and then I came to watch this one. It was
Okay.
there's quite a contrast and two different approaches, and each of them made me appreciate the other more because they came from two different angles. What caught my eye for this was the soft narrative storytelling, and the fact that it wasn't too brand focused. The brand was not in your face. And as Africans, we like to tell stories. I mean, I'm sure every culture in Africa has as documentation of people sitting around fire, sitting around their grandmother. So as Africans, we like stories. So this got me as an African because hey, he starts telling a story and it's not linear. And at the end of the story, it is still branded, but branded in a way that it's organic. And I tend to appreciate it as a non-branded piece of storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, the non-branding part that you just mentioned is something that I'd like us to touch on. Let me just play a few seconds of this, and then we can delve into it.
It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story.
I think it's
Especially
just
because I
this,
also love coffee.
and that's why you're having one now, right? So, um, the subtle messaging that comes through there, I think that it's right there at the end is just telling of how they were not just quite obvious in terms of what the message is. What does it tell you about what they think about the target market and how they conceptualize that?
Yeah, I think that there's I mean, what it's a story of coffee, really. And coffee isn't so prevalent in West Africa. But in Central and Southern Africa, coffee is a big deal. And people love coffee. So if the brand decides to ride the storytelling wave coffee, then they get everybody's attention. Because then if you love coffee, you want to find out something. The other thing about good storytelling too is discovery. Because if
Mm,
you listen to a story, you want to discover something. After watching this, I've sort
mhm.
of discovered the journey of coffee.
Yeah,
And I've also discovered the role technology plays in coffee.
yeah,
So these two steps, it's
uh-huh.
very I tend to I have absorbed the message without necessarily thinking of any brand. And then in the end, they throw it in lightly. Then all of a sudden, the weight of the product, the weight of the story is associated with the brand. And I wish more African brands would do this because as a people, we are storytelling led. It's not every time that it has to be front and center. This is the product for 9.99. You can get this. Sometimes you need to
Yeah.
just tell the story and let people breathe and go along with you. Then when you throw in the brand, it feels organic and it sits more with our being than when it is front and center.
For sure. And I think there's something to be said about not undermining the intelligence of your target market. In this case, obviously, they're
Yes.
targeting business. And I think that's why maybe the visual or more
Yes.
the selling message is quite subtle and it's right at the end,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Yeah.
I think let me play or show a screenshot of something that you mentioned earlier on. You
Yeah.
spoke of the subtle brand messaging that does come through, but in this screenshot,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think this spends more than 2 seconds on screen or a second even. But there's
Yeah.
this and another one where you see a bit of yellow,
Yeah.
but it's very subtle. I mean, in contrast to the other video production that we looked at, you would actually think because we've known MTN as a yellow brand, you would think that that's what they will do, right? But not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something I learned about storytelling from a magician. When a magician is doing something with their right hand,
Yeah.
where you really have to be looking is their left hand because that's where the magic is happening. They are using their left hand to prep you or prime you. Meanwhile, the actual magic is probably happening in the other hand. And I guess that's what this commercial does. There's
Yes.
there's there's enough priming and prepping of the audience whilst
Hmm.
telling the story. So at the end, when they say MTN,
Hmm.
you still be psychologically you still be seeing yellow because that's what their brand stands for. But they
Hmm.
just prep you with just little things. Like an example, that shot you gave, when you see the
Hmm.
technology, you see a little bit of yellow, and then on the screen there's MTN, but it's far off. It's almost observational from the point of view of somebody sitting behind someone. And that's what the subtlety did, and it did it a few times before the
Yeah.
end. So the
Yeah.
moment. you get to the end, you associate the brand, you see yellow in your head, even though
Yeah.
they haven't put the yellow in your face. And that's what good storytelling does, because they've done lots and lots of commercials that's yellow. They had
Mhm.
the liberty, or they were smart enough to say, let's step back this time and let what we've built, the seed we've grown in their head, grow for themselves. Because the moment you hear empty in your head, there are yellow cues of color in your head already. So then you did the
Yeah.
filling in for them. And that's what makes it powerful.
Yeah, and it's definitely a powerful piece. There's so much calmness in just the tone and
Yeah.
the way it moves from a sound point of view, and it
Yeah.
uses a conversational voiceover, from that point of view. But there's a lot of visuals that are used there, and they're different. What can you tell us about just that visual treatment?
For me, the thing that's got to me, well, like you said it, is the color and the tone, void of yellow. And the
Yeah.
fact that it starts, and there's emphasis on the climate that coffee is grown in, and it starts from
Mhm.
that point of view. Imagine throwing in something yellow there, it will feel so out of place.
Yes.
So it's just the maintenance of the tone from the beginning all the
Hmm.
way to the end. And I also think that, even for the end frame, usually MTN end frames will be all yellow, but for
Hmm.
this it was white, so that it's in tandem with the tone. And coffee is a natural thing. Coffee is something we enjoy, in quiet moments. Coffee is something that's
Yeah.
natural. Coffee is a commodity. Coffee is something that brings, sustain livelihood to people. Coffee is grown on farms. So coffee is
Yeah.
not the kind of commodity like gold that is metallic and hard. It is a very natural occurring thing. So I guess that tone is what was kept throughout the commercial. And even with the selection of shots, and very, very soft, depth of field.
Yeah.
So is the parts that are sharp are minimal. So it's just bringing your attention on what they want you to see. An example, when the guy is sipping the coffee, there's this sharpness on just his smile, and
Yes.
that sets the tone for what he's about to say. Or when the coffee farmer holds the coffee bean
Yes.
and the
Uh-huh.
focus is on the coffee bean, there's
Uh-huh.
so much they use focus, selective focus to achieve. And I guess that also, amplifies the tone of the voice, because they didn't want it to scream at you. They didn't want everything to be sharp. Your eye resolves that, oh, this is a man holding a coffee bean, but attention is on the coffee bean. So that preps you not to think that this is even about technology. Then at the end, the contrast of this being a technology is just the sweet spot for this ad.
Yeah, it's quite a dynamic one. Because I couldn't help but notice that they've used stock footage in places, and you can see that they were well equipped in terms of cameras and then obviously the
Yeah.
tools, other tools that they use there. What production discipline do you think you would focus on if you were directing this and you had to achieve this across different markets?
I think cultural relevance is one thing. By cultural relevance, you've picked a subject that's coffee.
Yeah,
And even in countries that this ad may play in countries that may not necessarily understand what coffee is, then the humanity and the approach to maintaining the humanness of the commercial. There's always someone in the shot, there's always human presence, and it is just opposed against nature. And like I said, even when there's technology, it is not front and center. There's human presence. And I
yeah,
think that's the key thing for me if I'm directing this, because the humanity of the ad is what makes it break all the barriers of they are trying to sell to me and gets to the heart of people. And that is the strength of this commercial. So with humanity at the core, or humanity in mind when taking decisions in terms of color, in terms of edit, in terms of
yeah,
framing,
yeah,
in terms of even the tone of voice, music, sound design, all of these things. If the humanness that we are you want to portray stays central, and that becomes the key that runs through, then
yeah.
your story is achieved. And it's achieved so much that even if at the end you want to overbrand it, it doesn't become possible, because then it seems out of place. Yeah.
Fantastic. And before I ask you the last thing, which will become a tradition in these production dissecting episodes, is what excites you when you think about film in Africa for the next 3 years at this point in time? Nana Asihene, what excites you?
I think the liberalization of filmmaking, the fact that we are born as storytellers and it's innate. That's what Africans are. And the fact that a
Yeah.
16-year-old boy in Zimbabwe can pick up an iPhone and tell a story, long as he knows how to tell a story and the story is told properly and people will understand it. And for me, that's the key thing. And I think it's time for Africans to start telling our own stories. And the era of African stories being told by people who are not in Africa
Hmm.
is over. And what even makes it nice is now everybody in Africa can tell a story because apart from cinema and apart from these bigger platforms, there's social media. And it's empowered the youth so much. It's created jobs for the youth so much. Now,
Hmm.
people who are running small businesses have come to understand the power of storytelling. And there are
Hmm.
small brands in small corners of countries like Lesotho that are selling worldwide just because they can tell their story. And as Africans, our stories are layered. We haven't even started telling our stories yet. The West has told us their stories. We have so much stories to tell. So I mean, that's what excites me. I think for the next 100 years,
Yeah.
as long as technology begins continues to grow and people have access to it,
Yeah.
Africans are going to lead the wave of storytelling worldwide.
Fantastic. Now to close it off, you've taught us quite a bit. You touched on storyboarding, the quality of video production, and how storytelling is important when it comes to video production. So to give us three rules of
Mm,
thumb, three video production rules of thumb, Nana SN, as we close off.
yeah. I think one story is king, and tell your story through the visuals, through what people hear, what
Mhm.
they
One.
see.
Yeah.
I think preparation is the best thing you can ever do. Prepare and over prepare,
Hmm.
the key thing. And three is stay authentic. We are Africans. Let's tell
Hmm.
the story from our lens. If you tell a story you do not understand, it would show on screen. Tell stories that from a place that you understand. For me, these are the three things.
Storytelling, preparing, and being authentic.
Authentic, yes.
And you touched on pre-production and how key it was for one of the productions that we looked
Yeah,
at earlier
yeah,
on.
yeah.
I want to thank you very much, Nana, and thank you for coming on. Thank you for the insights,
Thank you.
and we hope to see you next time. And I know you dabble into
Anytime, I'm ready.
other areas of production, so hope to see you soon. And thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers.